On if you want to hit the record. On. Cool. Continue. Okay, welcome everyone. It's fun. We have 3 people live in the boardroom. That's super fun for me. And Sheri, our moderator, is also here. I'm sorry, she's our panelist for tonight. And Anna is actually not here tonight, but it still works really well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Anna, if you want to open us up.
Great. We just want to thank everyone for joining the town hall meetings. Again, we know there's a lot going on in our community, so thank you for taking your time to join this. The ground rules are really simple. Be respectful. Try to keep your questions on topic, and most importantly, just be kind and get the most out of you. The most that you can out of this meeting. So the chat questions, if you chat in any questions, they will come to me as the host, and then we'll be sure to send them to the panelist or Jill as they may be. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So this evening, our panelist is Sheri White. She is the director of HRN, and HRN actually has many services that they provide, but this evening, Sheri is going to focus on 3 of those. And then once she's done, we'll go into some updates on the fire and the fair and Caltrans update and a general plan meeting update. And there's some things to talk about there. And then we'll be able to have a little bit of time to talk about topics that are of interest to you if you've brought something this evening that you would like to bring to the table. So we welcome Sheri. Thanks for being here, and the meeting is yours.
Me, and I know you totally just showed me how to share that, and it literally left my brain already. It's gone. It's Monday. Totally left.
Yep.
There we go. All right. Thanks. You're good. Sorry. All right. So up on the screen for you to see is the different sections within HRN. We have children's services, community services, and empowerment services. Under each of these services, we do a lot of programs, and it's a little difficult to go into all of them. So I do have you can make a copy of that if you'd like. And I also have some rack cards here. If anybody would want one of those in person, I can totally give them to you. For children's serve, I'll just go over briefly over each of our services and kind of give you guys an idea of what it is that we do. For
Good.
Hello.
Yeah, I think you should be.
So I'm just going to go briefly over each of these of the departments we have at HRN, and then again, you can ask any questions at the end and I will try to answer accordingly. Under children's services, we work with family childcare home providers. So if parents are looking for childcare, we can connect them with a childcare provider, with a center in town, Head Start, our early Head Start program. The Head Start program here in Weaverville. We have 2 state preschools, one here in Weaverville and one in Lewiston. And we are waiting to see on start dates for the schools, depending on what happens with the fires. We work with the providers, making sure they have training, getting information that they need. With all of the information and things that have come down with COVID, we've been able to give them things to help sanitize their houses, making sure they have everything they need to keep things sanitary for themselves and for the children. We run a summertime school age program. So for kiddos who go to school, kindergarten through 12 years of age, and their parents are working full time, we offer a summer program for them just during the summer months, between starting the day after school gets out to the day before school starts. So we run that program from 7 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night. We have a lending library that's available for the children, parents to check out videos, toys, books. And we also have a lending library for providers, and they can choose things that they need for their home, paint, paper, things that can help the children and make their environment better for them. We also have a children's shoe program. So if you know kiddos right now who are needing back to school shoes, send them over. We have shoe vouchers through here at the shoe store here in town or in Big Five in Reading. They can get up to $40 for a pair of shoes per child per year. So if you know some kiddos who need back to school shoes, now is the time to do it. We offer it year round, but back to school. Under community services, we do housing. We work with, do parenting, and we have prevention programs. So our housing programs, we work with those people who are homeless, and we work to assist them to find housing, be that a rental on their own, or we have emergency housing that we have at HRN. We have 4 emergency trailers that we can house people in for a specific period of time. We have transitional housing units. So people who are doing well, we can move them to transitional housing units, and then they can stay there up to 2 years. And then they hopefully within that period of time will have done really well, and they're moving on and they're having their own rental or moving to their own home. We've had some great success in the past where people have come in to emergency shelter. They've done really well. We've transferred them to transitional housing. They were able to leave transitional housing to their own rental. Once they got past the rental, they were able to actually purchase their own homes. So we've had some success with that, which is always a great feel-good moment. So we work with them. We can offer rent and utility assistance. Along that, we also work with them on budgeting, making sure they understand how much money's coming in, how much money's going out, and what that looks like, and how to assist them with that. We offer parent support. We offer in-home parenting. So if parents are needing assistance, hopefully to help them from not losing their children to CWS, but also if they have lost their children, we can give them parenting support so they can get their children back into their home. We have a welcome baby program where if you have a baby or you have been given custody of a baby, we can come and bring you supplies and support and give you access to resources that can be helpful here in Trinity County or in Shasta County, whatever is needed. Our 2 prevention programs are tobacco education and rape prevention education. Our tobacco education program works with our group at high school called Friday Night Live, and they work to make changes in our community regarding tobacco. And they've even addressed the Board of Supervisors, which I'm sure Jill might remember that being done. We're really proud of them, and they're doing a great job of making information known about tobacco and being sold in different organizations around town, and if they are following the rules correctly. Our rape prevention education is currently being run in Junction City. And basically that is just teaching the children that it's okay to say no. It's okay that it's my body and I get to choose what happens to me, and that it is not anybody else's job to tell me what to do. And you cannot make me do something I don't want to do in that regards, and hoping that we're empowering kids to say it's okay to say no. But also on the other hand, to let them know if something has happened to them, we are a place that they can come to get assistance, and we can help them and support them. We offer transportation vouchers. So if someone needs assistance going to a doctor's appointment, or if they are needing going to a social service appointment, we can assist with a gas voucher for you as long as you have proof that you're needing to go to an appointment. If you are not able to drive and someone else is driving you, we can also reimburse them for their time of driving you down the hill and back. And it's based on the price of gas and your tank of gas and the year of your car. The last thing we offer under community services is a prison to community reentry program. So basically when someone is through this program is come out of prison, we work with them to help them get acclimated back into society. We may help house them for a while. We help work on them with getting a job. So helping to create a resume, getting an ID, if they were able to get a job someplace that they need specific things like boots for working at the mill, we're able to do that. And we work with helping really get them back to where they need to be. So hopefully they do not return to prison, and that it's a successful reentry back into society. In our empowerment services is all about helping survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And that comes in a variety of ways. One, we do have a domestic violence shelter that we can assist someone who is fleeing from an active domestic violence situation. We also are connected with other places within California that if someone needs to be transported out, we can get them out of Trinity County to a safer place outside of the county. This can be done any time of the day or night. We do have a crisis line that someone can call. It's 623-HELP, and they can call and they will be connected with someone who can assist them or talk to them or listen to them as they are working through a problem, or connect them with law enforcement and help them get where they need to be to get them safe. Working through that, we help them with restraining orders. We can go with them if unfortunately they are sexually assaulted. We can go with them to the hospital and be with them as a support person while they are going through a SART, which is basically a forensic exam. If they decide that they want to press charges, they'll have information about that. We do have a 24-hour crisis line, and we are looking for crisis line workers. So if anybody is interested, they can call HRN at 623-2024 and ask to talk to Julie. She'd be more than happy to talk to you about the crisis line. The crisis line is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you have to go through a 40-hour training to attend to be able to be on the crisis line. And then you may or may not get a call. So you take a turn. This is my 12-hour turn, and you might get a call or you might not. And there's no right or wrong. It's what happens. But you're basically saying, I'm here if somebody in the community needs help. That's kind of a really quick overview of what HRN does. And there's way more than what we do than what's on here, but that's kind of a general overview of HRN and all the services we offer.
So Sheri, a couple of things come to mind. First of all, you've got what you've shared tonight grouped into these 3 categories, but I've seen your wheel of services that you provide. Is everything that you provide somehow in these 3 categories, or did you just choose 3 out of everything for this evening?
Everything we do is within these 3 categories. We have in our agency is 3 departments: Children's Services, Community Services, and Empowerment Services.
And then, on those who might want to volunteer, is there an age limit? Is it 18 or over, 21?
18 or over, and they will have to, everybody has to pass a fingerprint clearance.
Great. Okay, so we're going to go to questions for Sheri, and while Anna is checking the chat, I think we'll start in the room. Does anybody here have any questions you would? If so, just step to the mic, and that way everyone can hear you if you don't mind.
I was just wondering, where do you find the most need in one of those 3 categories?
Good question.
I'm going to say, Karen, it totally depends on the time. Time of year, what's happening in the community, the economic situation of the community. There might be times where we have more people who are needing housing than other times. There might be times of the year where we have more domestic violence cases than other times. Childcare tends to be pretty year round. People need care for their children while they're working. So, but housing and empowerment services are probably the second, are probably one, the same, depending on what's happening. Coming into the fall, because of marijuana grows, we will probably have a higher DV incidents to start happening. So, unfortunately. But not necessarily, but that just tends to kind of what we see.
Anybody else in the room? Okay, Anna, do you have any questions on the chat?
There was one question about if all of your services are dictated by financial need. So are these services available to anyone in the community, or is there have to be a financial need that has to be proven before services are received?
Our empowerment services for domestic violence and sexual assault are just available for anybody who has a need, regardless of income. Children's services, the shoe vouchers are available for anyone to come in. As far as state preschool and childcare, it is income based, but that is dependent on how much your income is versus how much what our income level is for the year, and that changes year to year depending on what the government sends down. But we definitely work with people to make sure that we can assist them with getting childcare, even if we can't provide it, helping them find childcare. So regardless of if they can be subsidized through HRN, we would work with them to find childcare or do our best to help them. The tobacco education and rape prevention education programs are offered to anyone. That is not income dependent. And the housing is income dependent. Parent support is not income dependent, and our prison to release program is not income dependent, but they usually don't come out with income. So, and all of these services, I would say 99% of these services are all grant funded. So these all come down from different grants through Cal OES, through California Department of Social Services, California Department of Education, the federal government. Some of them come from the Humboldt Area Foundation. So they're all funded by grants. So that also dictates how we can spend the money and who can be recipients of.
Okay, very good. And that grant funding that comes to you, is that the kind of thing where what you receive, you must find a way to utilize, or you have to pay it back?
Some of those, yes. A lot of the grants, so the Children's Services grants, they reimburse us. So we say we've spent this much money, we have to send in our vouchers and all that, and then they send the money back to us. So we get it after we've done the service. Some of it, they give us the money and we have the money. Others, you have to prove that you've done it, and we have to use it up by a certain time. There's not an option.
Okay, so not seeing any other questions in the chat. I have one more for you, and it's just kind of flipping it upside down. We've spent all this time talking about the services that HRN provides, and I'm now wondering what kind of job availability you might be posting within HRN. Are you looking for employees?
For employees, we currently are in need of a head teacher for one of our preschool programs. We've been looking for over a year, but if we could find a head teacher, that would be fabulous. They're cute little kids. They're 3 and 4. You can't go wrong with them. They will go forever. We need that. We are looking for assistance in our tobacco education program, and we have been looking for assistance in our domestic violence and sexual assault department.
If I'm mistaken, Sheri, didn't you start your career in preschool?
I started my career in preschool.
She's the director of the whole program.
23 years.
Any other questions come to mind? Sure.
My question is, would you see yourself, HRN, as more of a coordinating agency or the actual provider, or maybe 50-50? You're giving out a lot of information here, but I'm wondering how much is HRN or just the agency I know about?
So we would be, I would go 50-50 with that. We do coordinate a lot of things, and other things are given to us and we provide the service. Does that make sense? Yeah. It just depends on the grant, and it depends on what's happening. So like childcare, we receive the grants and we work with the parents to help them get childcare. We work with the providers to provide the childcare. The same thing with community services. We get the grants and then we coordinate with different departments within the agencies within town. So we might work with CWS, we work with Health and Human Services, behavioral health, work with transportation department. So we do work with many other departments here in the town, in the county.
So Sheri, thank you for being here. And I think that I just want to say thank you for what HRN provides to this community. I think over the 33 years that I've lived here, until we started kind of helping with some advertising some years ago, I didn't realize one fraction of what you provide and the work that goes on to direct all of this, administer it, keep it all running. I know you're extremely busy and oftentimes burdened. But I'm sure that, that all gets met with, or balanced rather, with just knowing that what you are doing for other people is so meaningful and so needed. And so I just want to thank you on behalf of Trinity County and the recipients. It's not easy to be the person on the stretcher, so to speak, to need somebody else to help you. But when you do, you do. And I'm so grateful that these things are here to help other people.
Thank you. I will say there is, as we look at this fire situation, we have in the past assisted with fire. We started with the Helena fire, assisting with clients, and we have been working with people in the August complex fire who are still working on getting home. We are working, I'm believing that within the next year, when these people who have already lost their homes that we are aware of, when they start working to go home, we will be available to help them.
Very good. Another question? Oh, okay, great.
Sheri, can I jump in for a second? This is Daryl.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of it or not. The Rotary Club still has some fire fund money that I think we could use for some of the current situations. So you might check with Pat or even Jill or whatever. But we do have some fire fund monies from donated from prior fires. So
Yes, I'm in contact with Pat, so it's fine. But thank you for reminding me.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. Okay. Last call for questions for Sheri, and then we'll move on. Okay. If you can click down at the bottom on that share screen again, and there should be a way to undo that.
And if not, I think I can do it from here also, Sheri.
Okay, so I just have some updates for you on the local situation, and then we'll move to topics of your concern if you have things that you've brought that you want to discuss tonight. Most of this I have forwarded out, so you may or may not have already seen it, but this morning came a message from Sheriff Saxon. It says, after consultation with the Forest Service and looking at the anticipated weather patterns, we'll be implementing an evacuation order for the Burnt Ranch community this morning before noon. This is a similar evacuation order to the Junction City order in that it is not in immediate danger, rather an opportunity for people to evacuate during daylight hours to avoid panic and dangerous conditions that can occur in the area during the night. Code Red and other media will be used to notify the public. So then the most recent updates on the monument and the McFarland fires. The monument, we are now at 666 total personnel, 9 hand crews, 62 engines, 5 helicopters, 11 dozers, 2 water tenders, and 5 masticators. And the total footprint is up to 53,019 acres with now 3% containment, which is exciting to see a 3. We've seen a 0 all along. And the McFarland fire is at 32,687 acres, 26% containment, 8 injuries there. 2 structures have been damaged, 18 crews, 24 dozers, 6 helicopters, and 34 engines. Caltrans increased their closure of Highway 299, moving it further to the west, approximately 7 miles west of Weaverville near Junction City to approximately 4 miles west of Burnt Ranch. So just incorporating a little more distance to the west as the fire grows that direction. And then an update on the fair. The fair board is still saying that the fair is going forward at this time. They have modified their schedule and they have canceled the parade. Got an email from Sunday Stanley who said she's still trying to get carnival rides in so that wouldn't be a total loss, but she's still working on that. My understanding is they're having a fair board meeting tomorrow night so that if there are any last minute changes, they'll be discussing those. So those are the current information that I have. And now we move to anything that you brought tonight that you would like to talk about. So feel free to put it in the chat. you can unmute yourself and is that a raised hand or is that, oh, that was my cursor, sorry.
So Jill, I guess everybody knows that the general plan stuff is scheduled for tomorrow has been canceled, so.
Thank you. That was the other thing that, yes. There was going to be a 10 o'clock meeting that was a 2 o'clock meeting that was combined Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission, and then the 6 p.m. General public meeting, and that's all been canceled, and we don't have a future date on that yet. Disappointing as that is, it's a good idea. It's fair because we want everybody to be able to speak into that and get the information. So thank you.
So they've also canceled the Thursday night Planning Commission meeting.
Yes. Topics, things on anybody's mind? We're a quiet group, which is fine. That's all good. If nobody has anything, that's fine. But this is a chance to just kind of open discussions on things, even if you just want to suggest a topic for the future, or there's a panelist that, you know, we haven't invited in yet that you would enjoy hearing from, feel free.
I have a question, Jill, as a constituent of yours here. Oh, sorry, someone in the room?
Nope,
that
you're
was-
good.
Okay. I was wondering if you could talk to us about RAC and kind of what we might be able to foresee with RAC, or how RAC works, or when we might know kind of those criteria for RAC and who's eligible, and any of the RAC updates. Maybe not tonight on the spot for you, but that would be something I would like to add to a future agenda.
Okay, cool. So we actually have a Sierra Pacific member in the room tonight. Do you want to speak to the RAC? Or, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to.
Probably better to find somebody from the Forest Service. who's
Okay.
more involved in that.
Okay, absolutely can do that. Yes, gosh, somebody help me with the acronym. Darrow? Resource Advisory Committee. And this is a committee of, Darrow, jump in and give us a little lowdown on RAC.
Well, I don't know an awful lot about RAC. I've never served on it, other than is a function of the county, the county schools monies that they've got over the years, and they put a certain amount of money aside for, you know, basically development of natural resources or maintenance of them, or however you want to describe it. And so there was a RAC committee appointed it was federally appointed. It wasn't a local appointment. You could get on RAC, but you had to get appointed from outside the area to get on it. So, and I don't know where they're at currently with funding. I mean, as long as the school's money is there, I suspect there's some RAC money available as well, but that's been, you know, going down over the years. So I don't know what the current status is as far as how much might be there, but it was basically there to provide forest maintenance and whatnot over the years. Described, you know, at a local entity, even though the RAC members were appointed, but they were generally local members. And so it was usually local decisions how it would be made. So it was a pretty good program when you took in, if you look at the whole thing, I mean, there was a lot of money that we didn't get anymore from the Forest Service. And this replaced that mainly for schools and roads. But they did put some of those dollars aside for forest maintenance. And guys, if you ever really want to know about RAC, you want to talk to a Jim French or somebody like that who spent a lot of time developing all those programs and whatnot, or making, you know, working on getting them done. So.
Okay, and Anna can totally make that a topic for a future meeting. I did attend one RAC meeting, and at that time they were kind of reorganizing and just kind of was a reset time. So excellent suggestion, and we'll put that on for the future.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Anything in the chat?
Jill, just kind of something that's been popping up and a little bit because it happened to a family member of mine over the weekend. While the hospital is doing really well physically and whatnot, and the emergency room is working well, we're really having a hard time in the emergency room in particular to find beds for people who need to be in a more intense environment than they are at the hospital. So Mercy and Redman and all those folks are basically full up, and some of it's just because of staffing. In other words, they may have a bed, but they don't have a nurse for that bed. And so there's a real issue out there, basically from the standpoint of the medical community of yeah, the hospital's doing good. We have beds. We're physically strong. Mercy room is working pretty well, but there are people that come in there, and that happened to a family member of mine this weekend that needed surgery in another location. And it was really hard for them to find a place to get to. So they talked about sending them to Reno and all kinds of things. So
Oh my, okay.
it's been a problem at the hospital for quite a while. And it just the kind of thing that somebody needs to be thinking about. I don't know if there's any real fixes per se, but it's a problem with the medical community, I think, as a whole, probably.
Okay, so I'm sorry to hear about your family member. Hopefully that ended up okay. And
Doing well, released and back at home. So
okay, good to know. So maybe a chat with Aaron Rogers in the future might be informative and really helpful. So I'll put that on the list as well. Thank you. Did you think of, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just wondering, because I'm a little closer maybe to the fires with the smoke and everything like that myself. But I was just wondering, I know you get a lot of information, you disseminate it well. I'm getting a lot of that. I was just wondering if people are feeling like they're getting enough information. Sometimes people feel like they're getting too much, but you also wonder if you're getting the accurate information, because when you see fire trucks show up in town and then you see smoke drifting different directions, it's kind of important to know why that's happening or what's happening. So people have a lot of questions, and then if they're getting their information from Facebook, a lot of times it's not accurate. So I just didn't know if you feel like they're communicating with the supervisors well. If not, I could certainly kick a tire or two and make them do that.
It's hard for me to speak to that because this is my first fire, my first term as a supervisor, first experience. And so I feel like there's so much information coming to me, but how the public feels about us disseminating that. So I sit in 10 o'clock meetings where these briefings go on, and you get the weather report and the fuels and the plans of attack and all those kinds of things. And I think in my mind, I have a little bit of trouble just making a mental picture of, okay, what's really going on out there? What does it look like? And as the area gets broader, are we just, burning out in lands where homes aren't sitting, or are they being well defended? That kind of thing is foggy in my mind. I think that they are trying really hard to communicate. I think it's more me trying to figure out what that really means.
Yeah, because they use terminology that we don't all understand at times, so the type of attack or when to do certain different things, different types, we almost need an interpreter for some of that. And then some of it, you're trying to read through what's being said. So I just, if they say they're doing this type of direct, what's full suppression? They say they're doing full suppression, but if they don't have the resources, that doesn't mean the same thing as another place where they have more equipment. If they're doing direct suppression tactics, that's going right to the fire's edge. But if you don't have enough people, you can't do that. So if you have dozers, but you don't have hoses to secure the line, the dozer doesn't work. So getting the resources, it's really, really important to them. They can come up with a plan and they can ask for resources, but they don't get them because there's priorities elsewhere. Then it sounds like they're doing a good job, but maybe they can't. So that's where I'm kind of hoping we can maybe with the liaison get a little clearer information or how they feel like they're being supported to get the job done that they have to.
Okay.
Okay. Because we have communities in the way, and then that becomes a primary point of defense. And if you're protecting a community, sometimes you use up all your resources there, and then the fire perimeter maybe can't get managed. So that's where I was thinking, maybe resource-wise, we can sometimes lobby for additional resources.
Okay. And then there was a question this morning too, that, an evacuation order came out for Junction City. But they were saying, where was the evacuation warning before there was just the order? And so, you know, then the same for Burnt Ranch. But I think that the way that it reads in the sheriff's report makes it a little clearer that when they gave that, it really was kind of it was a heads up. It wasn't the mandatory, more frightening one. But I think that if we had the term warning, maybe that feels a little bit more comfortable than, hey, it's time to go, than that.
Yeah, because I know they have trigger points and they call it that. When it gets to a certain point or it does a certain thing, then they're going to issue this or they're going to close that. And so from a trigger point standpoint, sometimes you cross your trigger, both triggers at the same time. So if you get a spot that goes miles, like I saw happen at Junction City, it's like, well, the fire wasn't even to Helena yet and it's already in Junction City. So it's like, okay, how did it happen? So then it becomes more urgent sometimes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Jill, this is Darrell again.
Yeah.
Actually, in that kind of line, I think there's two levels of talk. One is the reporting on what's happening right now, which we're all really concerned about. But some of the conversations I've had with people are along the lines more of firefighting philosophies and that sort of thing. They're longer discussions that could be happening when there's not a fire that they got to worry about. I mean, obviously, the issues right now are, excuse me, having resources to do whatever. But some of the discussions around whether the Forest Service wants to let the fires burn and protect the communities, or whether they want to attack them, to put, do a general attack and not just do away with them all, do a fire as quick as they possibly can. And there's a lot of different ideas about what's happening there and how the Forest Service manages that. And I think there'd be an opportunity for a lot of discussion, not necessarily when a fire is going on, but at a different time.
Okay.
Be good for the community to understand what the Forest Service's philosophy is, what CAL FIRE's philosophy is about that sort of thing, so we can understand better, what they are, and maybe influence the process so that it's make a little bit better for our community. So.
Okay, absolutely. And, I don't know how many of you have had a chance to engage with Tara Jones, our local ranger yet, but she is very easy to engage with, and she's very interested in what the local perspective is, what people want to see, and figuring out ways to make that happen. And so I think that engaging on these topics and conversations that will, kind of spur off of that will be good to have. They'll be easy to have. And I just get the picture that they will be productive. So let's make our list. Now during this time is the time that things are coming to mind. I think that when the emergency isn't here, for me, I can't come up with them as much. But when you're living it and feeling it, now is the time to write those things down and be mindful of what we do want to talk about later. And Tara did bring up to me too, because back several months ago, I was having conversations with her, and it was with regard to the August fire. There were people who were feeling like the locals that knew the topography, that knew the history, weren't being engaged with, how things should go forward. And people were frustrated about that. Now here we are in the middle of a crisis again, and she brought that up to me. I remember, Jill, that you were saying, we want to engage local people who've been here and understand, where different things lie, and we know the wind patterns in certain areas and what's going to happen. And I just appreciate that. It's an indication that she's listening and she's taking that to heart. And I think that we are very blessed to have her, and it's going to be good. So, one question that people have had for me, and I don't know the answer to it, is this still considered a fed fire, or has CAL FIRE been brought into where it is a combined, I don't know what they call it, when kind of who's in charge of that. But I know that the volunteer fire department has an engine that is part of a CAL FIRE strike team now. So I don't know if anybody we lost our forester to a phone call here. And do you know if that's happened? So Travis is in the room, and he's helping me to know that that's called Unified Command. And his guess is that has happened. When the fire briefings come on, it looks to me like it's still Forest Service that's giving all the updates, but that maybe isn't indicative. Okay, so he's saying that they're the lead agency, and that isn't necessarily indicating that that there isn't a unified command. Okay. Okay. Anybody? You had another question.
Well, I was just wondering.
If you go, sorry, the people on Zoom won't be able to hear you, and I would just have to repeat it.
Well,
Thanks.
this is my first time here, so.
Right. Well, it's our first hybrid, so we're all
Okay,
learning.
yeah. Well, I was just wondering, this isn't on the fire subject, it's on the cannabis issues.
Sure.
I had heard that they had a board of supervisors meeting, I think it was a week ago Friday, in regards to letting the dispensary go through. And it felt kind of unannounced and just happened. And I was wondering, is it too late now? Is it's going and there's nothing the rest of the community can do about it? I'm one of those kind of voices that doesn't think that cannabis is the future of Trinity County as far
Sure.
as the answer for our communities.
For sure. So the way that that happened, I will tell you that it happened legally. There was noticing, proper legal noticing in the paper before it went to the Planning Commission. The frustration is that on the night that it went to the Planning Commission, the District 2 Commissioner was not represented at that meeting because he was very sick. And so the fact that it passed that evening feels uncomfortable to many people because they don't feel well represented. Also, I never actually saw the noticing in the paper. It was missed by many. It was found by someone and taken a picture and sent in who said, wow, I missed it, but I found it after searching, and here it is. So again, it was legal. If you go to the Board of Supervisors meeting on YouTube and you go to about, I think it's about an hour and 53 minutes into the meeting, comments that I made that day, to me, something of this magnitude deserves more than just the irreducible minimum. And then to have it pass the Planning Commission and be appealed to the board. And the word in the room from County Council was, well, you don't have standing. If it wasn't brought up in a Planning Commission meeting, then basically you have no basis by which to bring it to an appeal before the board. And basically your voice doesn't count anymore. I'm not sure that that's going to end up being the entire truth, or not truth. Maybe that's not the way things get walked out. Well, I guess that'd be the whole truth, wouldn't it? Trying to be cautious with my words. So I will tell you though that there is a group of people that have hired an attorney, and they are appealing this to a higher level than just the Board of Supervisors, or that was the discussion. I haven't seen, formal litigation in writing. I haven't seen that yet. I heard discussion that could be happening. And at this point, that would be all that could happen, is to say that, there isn't an updated general plan, that everybody has gotten to speak into what this is supposed to look like, updated community plans, so kind of an inconsistent land use issue. There's not, in my mind, there's not clarity when the Weaverville Community Service District says we want to be an opt-out, and they were one of the original opt-outs when the ordinance was written. And then to say, well, a nursery isn't cultivation. Well, you didn't define nursery. And cannabis means that you're growing something. These are I'm speaking my opinions into this moment. And you can read all about that in the newspaper, and which is weird. And you can, watch the meeting and hear the discussion. You'll hear the other supervisors have their opinions, which won the day, obviously. And so, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable to feel like as a community member, I didn't get to see that. And I guess, note to self is, I guess we have to watch the Planning Commission website agenda every time and what's on there, and click into it. There's hyperlinks that will take you into the backup data to show you, what's being talked about. And I guess if anything, the the lesson, the personal lesson is we have to be paying attention. And which is what's really important about being a part of the general plan update community meetings. That's your opportunity to be a part of the fabric that produces this document that this is what it's going to be like in Trinity County for the next 20 to 25 years, minimum. And speaking to not only the grander issue of the plan itself and the elements that are in there, but each community having a say in what do we want our community to be like and feel like. I think, and maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but it's really easy to maybe watch national news and go, wow, somebody ought to rise up and do something. I don't think that what's going forward is necessarily the whole story. The way to do that is to rise up at your local level and be a voice. I know that I've had some people call me and say, I'm afraid to say what I really think. I'm afraid of, some sense of retaliation or, and Daryl and I had this conversation. I said, so, I've never witnessed this happen. Is this going to feel like it was happening when we were kind of hammering out the EIR? And probably that in spades, right? Yeah, can get uncomfortable. But I think that when everyone chooses to remain very civil and very thoughtful and continue to say, what it is that you think and feel, but just don't show up and not say anything, then if you're frustrated afterward, really, you have no one to blame but ourselves if we don't make our voice known. So I think there's opportunity here. I think there's opportunity to see perspectives that we haven't seen before, to hear from other people. Maybe there's opportunity to see there may be more people that are like-minded with you than we ever realized, because people do start to engage in the process. So, anytime there's something monumental coming up, there's always a chance for some really good growth and some positive things to come out of it. So I enter into it with expectations that it's going to be good.
Jill, there was a question in the chat about this very topic, about nursery, dispensary. There's been a few language vocabulary that's been used to describe the functions and what was actually approved. Can you help to speak to what it is exactly we're talking about?
I can. There were more uses that were originally applied for than what ended up being permitted in this conditional use permit, and they may be pursuing those other uses, over time. But right now, what was permitted, and Scott is on the line, and Andy, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have the documents in front of me right now. My memory says that nursery, dispensary, and manufacturing, non-volatile manufacturing, were what were included in this CUP. So somebody feel free to jump in or throw it in the chat if I have that incorrect, but if memory serves, that's what they were.
Thank you. Scott or Andy?
Nobody else?
Nope. Go ahead, Daryl.
I just basically, I tend to think, I think you're pretty close to being right. I haven't read the document either. One of the things that I think is an interesting place where we're at right now is that, we essentially have a new board of supervisors. And because of that, we have essentially a new planning commission. And so one of the things that I saw, I'm sure people know I film the board meetings and the planning commission meetings, so I sit through all of them. And I don't spend a lot of time reviewing the projects that are on and that sort of thing. I'm there as more of a scribe to film the meeting than I am to talk about what's happening. But clearly at that planning meeting, the lack of real knowledge about Trinity County and Weaverville and that sort of thing, I think really showed up as what was happening with that planning commission, which I think only goes to what you were talking about, is paying attention. Basically, we need to be really looking closely at what's going on so that we can step up and let them know what the community thinks about a particular project, because I don't think that happened at that planning meeting. And it may have been a different result if it had happened. So.
If I scroll up here, I got this a little bit wrong, but I've got better information now. Cannabis nursery, processing, distribution, type 6 non-volatile manufacturing, and testing operations. But Scott, not all of those were approved, right? 3 of them, I believe. Manufacturing and testing. We can look. I don't think the testing is in there, but I'm kind of waiting to see if I'm going to get another thing in the chat, but certainly can look it up. It's easy to find, and I can send that to you if you want to see it. And I could have brought it. I didn't think to. Sorry.
It looks
Okay.
like it just
Yep.
looks like Scott pulled it and put it into the chat for anyone who wants to review the language there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't see any minutes, so I don't know what was voted on or what wasn't. So
Okay, all right.
it's the
And I
best that
can,
I can find.
perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, we are at about 8 minutes to 8. So happy to take other topics or other suggestions for future topics you would like to hear about, but also happy to end a few minutes early if nobody has anything.
Jill, this is as a little bit of information. One of the things we think about when we have kinds of things happening now, what should we be doing at the museum relative to protecting our stuff? But the state did come in this morning and took out most of the stuff at the Josh House. So it was transferred down to Sacramento. So they've in fact basically cleaned most of the valuable items out of the Josh House for now and send them down to Sacramento. So
Okay,
just,
good to
this is a
know.
little bit of information.
And will you be continuing that process with items in the museum as well?
We may, I mean, it's really a function of how things go. And then we're talking about what we would do and whatnot. You know, we don't have the kind of resources the state has. But there are items in the museum that we may decide that we want to do something about. The bigger issue is basically being vigilant and making sure that we don't have any problems there. Like for instance, this morning we cleaned all the leaves off the roof and that sort of thing. So
Nice.
yeah, being proactive in there, but we will be monitoring what's happening obviously all the time to see what we want to do. But I just thought people might be interested in knowing that the Josh House, the state did come in and move the Josh House, most of the stuff out there today. So.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for that. And that brings to mind actually another thing that Tara mentioned to me this morning. And this time, particularly for Weaverville, where we're still feeling a little cushion of space, this is the time to be looking around your home and seeing what, even if there's small things that are left for hardening. Tara was chuckling because when she looked at the Forest Service building, there was a pile of wood that was nice, neatly stacked right up against the side of the building. And she realized, wow, we've got to move that. So just looking around your home, if your gutters, maybe didn't get cleaned out quite yet or what have you, what we can do to just do that last minute hardening that would be helpful. Anything else? Anybody?
I would just say on the hardening aspect of it, with our drought conditions we have, almost everything is receptive right now. The weather is such, so, lawns that weren't watered yesterday are receptive today. So if there is a warning, be real, take it serious. And if there's an evacuation, take it serious too. Because if you think you're just going to hang out, it's pretty dangerous for sure.
Mhm.
I've seen things go up faster than I've seen them any other time. And usually we have a fire line, we put a fire line in and then we can just do things off of that or work from that. And it's just spotting, so far away. So it's very difficult. I had one of the guys tell me, and this is not to scare anybody, but a lot of the things that we've tried that have worked in the past have not worked. So methods, they're difficult. Conditions are difficult. And it's early in the season. So it's pretty tough. So just take it serious.
Okay, thank you for that. Another word of the wise that came out of the briefing meeting this morning was, please be very mindful of, just normal things that you may otherwise do at your house. Somebody mentioned welding. I can't picture that you would go outside and try to do any welding right now. But whatever that might be, running your lawnmower over a place where there's a little bit of rocks or just those things, anything that could spark, I'm sure that nobody that is on this meeting would be thinking of going out and doing anything like that. But if you have a neighbor that's whatever, being aware of what's going on. So, all right. With that, unless nobody jumps in, I'm going to say thank you to everybody. I do want to pause for 2 seconds and say thank you to our moderator, Anna. She's so faithful and such a joy. I appreciate you so much, Anna, and all that you do to make these meetings flow smoothly. So thanks for your attendance today. And please feel free to reach out in emails or you can give me a holler if there are things that come to mind. But I just appreciate each of you and thank you for participating. So stay safe. Have a good evening. Okay, good night.